1716 West Main Street, Gun Barrel City, Texas, on Tuesday, December 21st at 3 p.m. Citizens' comments. Purpose of this item is to allow citizens an opportunity to address the city council on items that are listed on the agenda or issues that are not listed on the agenda. Any person desiring to make a public comment must first be recognized by the presiding officer and sign in at the podium with their name and address at least 10 minutes prior to the start of the meeting. Individual citizen comments are limited to 3 minutes. The presiding officer may ask the citizen to hold their comment on an agenda item until that agenda item is reached. The city council has no obligation to respond in any manner to comments or questions from the public. Any response from a member of the city council to non-agenda comments is limited to a statement of specific factual information, a recital of existing policy, or direction to staff for follow-up. I have one citizen's comment. Mr. Wyrick, I think you want to speak when we get to that item. Okay, thank you. Item 1A, convene into executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code. Oh, roll call. Thank you. Roll call from my left, please.
Y'all's here.
Evans here.
LaRue here.
Mullins here.
Foster here.
Thank you. We have full house. Now, item 1A, convene into executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.071, consultation with attorney regarding the following compliance with the Public Information Act and related matters. Mr. Armstrong, if you'd join us, we'll go into executive session. Time is 3:03. We will reconvene you back into open session. The time is 3:33. Item 1B. Let's see. Item 2A, I'm sorry. Public hearing regarding the removal of Joe Kyle from the Gun Barrel City Economic Development Board of Directors. I have a citizen's comment from Mr. Wyrick, if you'd like to go ahead and speak.
Howdy, my name's Ronald Wyrick. I live at 128 Harmon Road in Gun Barrel City. This little incident here on Joe Kyle's been going on now for over 8 months. The council hasn't come up with, or we haven't heard out here in the public yet, what Kyle has been charged with or whatever. It seemed like it's just been a witch hunt for over 8 months. It seems funny. It all started when whenever y'all hired an EDC director. And it seemed real funny how fast y'all got rid of EDC director. And this has still been going on for about 6 or 7 months since you got rid of an EDC director. How this has really just kept on going on and on one person. And I don't want to say one person. There's 2 people involved here. One person left the EDC board because she didn't want to deal with the outcomes of this year, because there's not no outcome. There's no guilty deal involved in it. There's no wrongdoing. They just got on a board to try to do something good for the city and volunteer to do it. But then they've been prosecuted by people even out in the city that thinks, from what they've heard from up here in this council, that they're just overwhelmed by it. I mean, how do you volunteer on a board and then 8 months later you're coming back and finally deciding what you're going to do? Instead, if you had evidence on somebody doing something wrong, you come out, you bring them up to council, you talk to them, you either get it worked out or you get rid of them. But 8 months to get rid of somebody or try to get rid of somebody for no wrongdoing? It just blows my mind how this council has went to this point over a year or 2 years term. I mean, there's council members sitting over here that's on council right now that was actually went after while they were on the EDC board. And I guess because they were voted by the people to sit up there as council people now, that the heads were turned. Well, this council needs to get back on board, I hope, in 2022 and start doing things right for the Gun Barrel City and stop turning their heads on the other side and doing the right things for Gun Barrel. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Mr. Kyle, you and your attorney have 10 minutes if y'all want to make some remarks. Is that enough?
I'm sorry, you said we have 10 minutes?
If that's enough.
Well, I'm going to ask my legal counsel to step forward. Mr. Ed Peterson, will you speak on my behalf, please?
Members of the council, Mr. Mayor, my name is Ed Peterson. I'm with the Winstead Law Firm in Dallas, and I represent Mr. Kyle. All this started, as far as I was concerned, when I was given by Mr. Kyle a letter from your city attorney asking that he turn over certain materials. He gave me the letter. I sat down with him. We went over. I said, you give me everything that you have, and he explained his position and said, well, whatever you've got, we need to turn over. I don't understand what this is about, because he didn't know what he was being charged with. He knew that there had been an investigation authorized by the council. He showed me the minutes. I looked at the minutes. In fact, I reviewed the minutes of this council that are on your website all the way back through April. Now, on May 25th, I should say, we responded to the city attorney's letter with what materials that my client could find that he had. And I explained what had happened vis-a-vis his email and email addresses in the letter, and told your city attorney that my client was very happy to cooperate, whatever was happening, and he was very happy to turn over any other material he was able to come up with. And further, there was one other thing out of abundance of caution. He had informed me that the mayor had requested on one other occasion that he turn over some whatever he had, and he had told me that he had responded and told him that he had nothing. Out of abundance of precaution, I included in my letter to your attorney a request that if there was something in writing that had been delivered to Mr. Kyle, I would like to see that so that we could go back and make sure that he hadn't overlooked anything. As of today, I've never heard a response to that letter. The next thing that Mr. Kyle got was a letter stating that he was going to be on the regular meeting agenda for the council to consider removing him from the Economic Development Corporation Board. And Mr. Kyle asked me to review the charter and make sure that everything was in order, because he was going to resist being removed. I looked at the charter, and the charter says in section 8.01, paren 2, paren closed, that Mr. Kyle has a right to a public hearing on charges publicly made before the city council if demanded by Mr. Kyle. So I, on his behalf, wrote a letter to the city secretary making a proper demand within the time limit, and as of this date, no specific charges or allegations have been put forth in relation to Mr. Kyle that would justify his removal. I will not go into all the detail of the different contacts that have been made, but I've kind of reviewed those. Those are the total of the contacts with Mr. Kyle from May 25th until today. I would point out to the council it's very difficult to defend yourself when you have no charges that have been lodged against you, even though it's required by your governing document. And I would point out that it's impossible to defend yourself when there are no allegations or charges made against you. So the members of the council should know that it's impossible, and it is because it's impossible to defend yourself, and you have to come to a hearing unprepared because you don't know what you're accused of. It's a denial of due process. And I would suggest to this council that there are no charges that exist, or they would have been made, or they have been purposefully not been made until today, so as to deny my client the opportunity to defend himself. So we would ask this council to vote not to remove Mr. Kyle because there's no evidence, there's no charges, there's no justification and that exist. And with that, there's not much more we can say because there's nothing to defend ourselves against, or my client to defend himself against. Thank you.
Thank you. I think I want to go back into executive session with the city attorney. So it is 3:44. We'll go into executive session pursuant to section 551.071. Like,
It says it at the bottom, it's posted at the bottom, they reserve the right to adjourn to executive session at any time. I have never seen it done before, though. I've seen it done before, but. It's posted at, the Gun Barrel City Council reserved the right to adjourn to executive session at any time during the course of this meeting.
We'll reconvene back into open session. The time is 4:50. Item 2A, public hearing. Let's see, we did that now. I'm sorry. Item 2B, discuss and/or take action to remove Joe Kyle from the Gun Barrel City Economic Development Corporation Board of Directors. Ms. Mullins?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to remove Joe Kyle from the Gun Barrel City Economic Development Corporation Board.
LaRue, second.
Have a motion and a second. Discussion?
Discussion.
Go ahead.
The purpose of this investigation, May 25th, was to determine how the board members were impeding the progress of the economic development in the city. I do not know that this is the case at all. After hearing the report on July 27th, the council took no action to accept the report or proceed with any other evidence seeking activity. The council did nothing. It is evident that there has been no approval of legal action on the part of the EDC or City Council, even if there were emails produced. As the investigation method itself caused Gun Barrel City to be susceptible to litigation by Mr. Kyle, any correspondence between the mayor and Mr. Kyle's response, and any other possible correspondence since emanating from the city attorney on the mayor's behalf to Kyle or his attorney and resulting responses have not been made available to the full City Council. A public hearing has been requested by Mr. Kyle in response to today's agenda item to remove him from the EDC Board of Directors. This action is being taken without the approval of the full council. This has been handled by the mayor's direction and not the City Council. The matter must be brought before the entire City Council to decide such action per Section 3.05 of our city charter. Is the council willing to ignore our own charter in this matter? The hearing timeline has also expired past the 10 days when requested by Mr. Kyle. This is my statement. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Foster. I will say that I have the right to put anything on the agenda that I feel need to be put on the agenda. I don't need the council's permission to put an item on the agenda. That would be another violation of the Open Meetings Act. Any further discussion?
Mr. Mayor, there's a comment that was just made that the council, that this investigation was instigated by the mayor. The entire council voted on this, so the council did, in fact, authorize it. I'm not sure what that last comment was because it's materially wholly inaccurate based on the facts. Second thing, the comment that the council did nothing after a recent meeting, and for some reason I'm interpreting that comment to suggest that for the perception that nothing was done, that this should be ended. It's my remembrance from this investigation that it did not stop, it continued, and it is still continuing. And any insistence that it should end because it didn't end on that one day before it was concluded, to me seems foolish or foolhardy. I believe that a full review of the facts is what would be necessary in any investigation, and some insistence that the investigation had to end by a certain date is, well, I don't agree with it. I think it should be given its due course and all the facts be provided, and that's what we've been doing.
Thank you. Any further comment?
Well, I have one. I think it's May 25th is when the 3 items were brought to the council about Joe Kyle and Susan trying to hijack the EDC. And there was 3 flimsy charges, but nothing that it had to do with what we're doing today. This today is what resulted from those 3 charges. They were holding up progress and projects and things like that. So that's what I thought it was in May, and now we're here in December and it's something else.
Okay.
I understand what you're saying.
If I can address that, Ms. Evans. Okay. May 25th is when the council authorized the investigation. June 10th, we sent out the public information request. We did not receive any information from either Mr. Kyle or Ms. Ball. We did receive information from Ms. Cooper and Mr. Lawrence. Mr. Kyle said he had nothing. He responded late to the request that he didn't understand that he had to tell us he didn't have anything. However, we knew that not to be the case, so we went forward with a second request, which was actually expanded to include more things than just the emails or the text messages. It was text message or any other form of written or electronic communication to the board members or city staff or EDC staff or council. Then we did not hear back from Mr. Kyle. That was done on June 28th until we heard from his attorney on 10/25. We do have a stack of emails that he has corresponded with Mr. Lawrence and Ms. Cooper. So we know that his email was working contrary. These are scattered all the way through 2021. So Mr. Kyle's refused to provide not only the emails, but any other documentation such as text messages and such concerning the EDC. So that's why we're here where we're at today, because the investigation couldn't move forward without more information. Any further conversation from council? Vote from my left.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to clarify that the investigation could not move forward because we didn't have the information requested. And today is about Mr. Kyle not fulfilling his obligation regarding the public information request.
Correct.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, just one last point. As I understand it, none of us have the legal right to ignore or just pretend like we didn't get a request like this.
That's what we learn when we take our public information class within the few weeks that we've become a board member or a council member. That is correct.
Thank you.
If there is no further discussion, I'll take a vote from my left.
Y'all's yes.
Evans, no.
LaRue, yes.
Mullins, yes.
Foster, no.
Okay, motion fails. Item 2C, discuss and/or take action to enter into an interlocal agreement with the County of Tarrant for equipment and vehicle purchases. Mr. City Manager?
This,
It takes 4.
Plus one.
Mr. City Manager?
this interlocal agreement is just in addition to the 2 interlocal agreements that we currently participate in, which is HGAC and Buy Board. Unfortunately, at this time, due to industry not having enough equipment to purchase or to build cars, the inventory that's available on HGAC and Buy Board is limited. Most of the automobile manufacturers currently this time will not allow you to purchase government vehicles because they're simply not available. This interlocal agreement with Tarrant County is just a third cooperative agreement the city would have to allow us to purchase vehicles and equipment without having to go out to the bid process. We have 2 choices in purchasing equipment. We can either put it out to competitive bid based on very specific specifications and requirements. Those bids would be sealed, provided to the city, and then the city would be obligated to purchase the lowest bid based on the specifications. Or we go out to those interlocal agreements and cooperative companies and can purchase any one of vehicles listed in those interlocal agreements. So if we wanted to buy a Chevy, for example, or a Dodge or a Ford, we wouldn't have to go out to bid because that bidding process has already been completed for us by the interlocal agreement and the cooperative agreements with those entities. So this is just allowing Gun Barrel City to enter into another interlocal agreement for the purchasing of equipment and vehicles.
Thank you. May I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion. Enter into an interlocal agreement with the County of Tarrant for equipment and vehicle purchases.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Vote from my left.
Y'all's yes.
Evans, yes.
LaRue, yes.
Mullins, yes.
Foster, yes.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
We are adjourned.